The Cuban farce denounced by Trump has just become even more exposed with what just happened in Brazil. The Federal Highway Police found 21 immigrants hidden in 3 vehicles in Boa Vista. Roraima and 18 of them were Cubans pushed onto a clandestine route along the BR 401. This Thursday, May 28, 2026, the case exposes a wound that the Cuban dictatorship's propaganda tries to hide. Families leave the island, cross borders by canoe, and end up in the hands of coyotes in northern Brazil. The operation took place on the night of May 22, arrested 2 Brazilians suspected of illegal transportation, and showed that the rosy talk about the socialist paradise doesn't hold up under a roadside police stop. Trump exposes the farce because the crackdown on illegal networks and regimes allied with migration chaos reveals who is fleeing, which route they are fleeing through, and who they are fleeing from. Why do so many Cubans choose a risky route? How did Brazil become a corridor for this crisis? I'll tell you all about it in a moment. If you like this kind of straightforward, no-nonsense content, consider subscribing because we have videos like this every day. The agents first found an abandoned car on the side of BR 401 in Boa Vista with 6 people inside. Later, officers intercepted 2 more vehicles in the same city and found another 15 immigrants. In the group, there were 18 Cubans, 2 Chinese, and 1 Haitian, including children and elderly people. The situation was treated as a humanitarian rescue, and the 2 detained Brazilians were turned over to the federal police. The suspects were charged with promoting illegal immigration under Article 232A of the Penal Code. The sentence can range from 2 to 5 years in prison, in addition to a fine. The accusation targets the clandestine transportation of foreigners for economic gain. In simple terms, it's a coyote scheme. People who make money off the desperation of those who cross borders without protection, without safety, and without any guarantee of reaching their destination. BR 401 has become one of the most sensitive routes in this migration flow. It connects Boa Vista to the border region with Guyana and has appeared in several recent operations. The route many Cubans use is well known to the authorities. Leaving Havana for Georgetown, the capital of Guyana, traveling overland, crossing the Tacutu River toward Bonfim, and then taking the highway to Boa Vista is an expensive, risky route controlled by intermediaries. That's where the political farce is exposed. The left tries to sell Cuba as a symbol of revolutionary dignity. But the numbers show Cubans fleeing en masse with children and elderly people inside illegal cars in the far north of Brazil. This isn't tourism. This isn't an exchange program. It's an escape from an island broken by decades of dictatorship, blackouts, scarcity, repression, and lack of a future. Brazil is receiving the direct consequences of a regime that pushes its own people onto the road. The operation on May 22 didn't happen in isolation. On May 16, police found 10 Cubans, including 2 children aged 2 and 4, crammed into a car without back seats on the same BR 401. On May 12, another operation caught 31 Cubans who had crossed the Tacutu River in canoes coming from Guyana. On March 31, the Federal Highway Police rescued 34 Cubans at the Macuxes Bridge and arrested 6 Brazilian coyotes who were taking them from Bonfim to Boa Vista. The sequence shows a pattern, a route, and repeated criminal activity. The Federal Highway Police data reinforces the seriousness. Between 2024 and May 2026, 189 immigrants were rescued on the federal highways of Roraima. In the same period, 31 coyotes were arrested and 31 vehicles used in illegal transportation were seized. About 91 of the rescued immigrants were Cuban. This number destroys the attempt to treat the case as an isolated incident. Roraima became part of the Cuban irregular migration route because it became a gateway for those who can no longer follow the old routes heading north. The Federal Highway Police also describes a harsh reality inside the vehicles: passengers crammed together, cars over capacity, and the risk of escape on busy highways. When there is a chase, the vulnerable immigrants are the first to pay the price, without proper documents and without control over the route. The increase in this flow is also reflected in the number of asylum requests. In 2024, official data from the Ministry of Justice showed 22,288 requests from Cubans, which is equivalent to 32.7% of the applications that year. In 2025, the number jumped to 41,920 requests. According to data cited by the International Migration Observatory, this represented 55.4% of all requests made in Brazil that year. The Cubans stopped being a secondary group and became the center of the migration crisis. This increase helps explain why the BR 401 case has political weight. The problem doesn't start on the highway. The problem isn't on the highway. It's the collapse of a system that traps the population in scarcity and then blames the world when that population flees. When the path to the United States gets tougher, part of the flow tries to go down through South America. When the Brazilian border seems more vulnerable, the coyotes exploit that gap. Organized crime adapts quickly, and the state needs to respond before the route becomes a permanent corridor. Trump comes into this analysis because his policy of pressure against harsh regimes and irregular immigration networks undercuts that narrative. The Brazilian government will have to explain how it intends to separate humanitarian assistance from fighting crime without turning Roraima into easy territory for border gangs. The Cuban dictatorship tries to keep up political appearances, but the road reveals the real result. 18 Cubans were not hiding in 3 vehicles because they believed in the regime's promise. They were there because life on the island became suffocating, because the regular route can't accommodate that level of desperation, and because criminals found a way to profit from it. Trump's pressure against the Cuban regime, reinforced by Marco Rubio, with sanctions against structures linked to Havana's military, shines a light on the central point. It's not the Cuban people who are defending the revolution, it's the Cuban people who are fleeing from it. When 18 Cubans, including children and the elderly, are caught in a police operation in northern Brazil, the socialist paradise narrative falls apart out on the road. The crackdown in Brazil doesn't just show irregular immigration, it shows the human effect of a dictatorship that has stripped people of food, electricity, freedom, and a future. And even so, here in Brazil, there are still many who defend this regime and want to hold it up as a political model for us. I am Milson Alves, an international relations specialist, and my purpose is to keep you well informed with the truth every day. The news links are in the video description. Leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and at the end, take a look at the comments so you can be even more engaged with the Wilson Alves community.